Hey guys, it's me, Alex Stein. I just want to say this has been a terrible meeting. I mean, it's been so boring. I just listening to all these people drone on. And let me tell you something, Jennifer. I love big booty Latinas. So I sit here and I see, yes, I love.
You are out of line.
Well, I can't say I love big booty Latinas? How do you figure that?
That
Wait,
is
how is that
first response?
So my First Amendment right, I'm allowed to say I like big booty Latinas. How is that a crime? Is that because you're a big booty Latina?
That is the second time.
Wait, how is that?
Do you have a comment?
No, I do have a comment about technology, but you're yelling at me because I'm talking about big booty Latinas. Like, listen, AOC is my favorite big booty Latina. You're my second favorite big booty Latina. So don't get all, butthurt about that. I still think you're a beautiful lady. Little thick, but I like them thick. I mean, I don't want some skinny mini girl. I want somebody that has some cushion for the pushing. You know what I mean, Jennifer? So this is the problem, is the tech here in New York City, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now my wife has got her OnlyFans on mycity.com. She's on My City showing her vagina for like $5.99 a month. And I know that you could probably make some money.
Call it?
Yeah, that's what My City, Jennifer. What? What's wrong?
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean?
Keep it clean.
What, do you know the First Amendment? I'm allowed, hey, no. See,
Twice already.
do you not understand the First Amendment? I'm allowed to say whatever I want. No, you don't understand the First Amendment. Okay, then I'm allowed to say big booty Latina.
Have him run his
Big
time.
booty Latina is not a crime to say that, officer. But this guy is such a dummy. He doesn't understand. It's not a crime. I can go to a meeting. I can call him a dummy. I can call you a big booty Latina. I can call you an idiot. I can call you a mask wearer, probably 5 times vaccinated. And I know you're probably going to get my. I can say all that. I'm a pimp on a blimp. Y'all don't understand this. I've sued y'all, and I've won. So I can call you a big booty Latina. I can say whatever I want.
Thank you.
Primetime 99. Yeah, y'all gonna learn the law. I'm a pimp on a blimp. Y'all think y'all can play with me? Let me up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines, somewhere deep in the heart of Illinois, in a bunker, the communist state of Illinois. Got my buddy Paul, and we have our special guest, Jim Wool, who's probably on America's Most Wanted in the Downers Grove area. He took that away from me. I dropped down a couple notches, and he's going to be talking with Paul about the Downers Grove Marxist Library, their attack on my buddy.
Yeah.
Well, he's not my friend. I hate that guy. I hate him.
The theme of our
Bill Neighbor, he's a piece of crap. He's an awful guy.
The theme of our last few shows has been, showing public comments from around here. We thought we'd, throw a little humor in the mix and show some public comment from New York and Alex Stein.
Yeah, where is Alex?
He always
Did you
delivers.
got the Alex picture, Jason? There, see, there's so. For those of you who know that nice Southern Poverty Law Center story that they made up.
Now,
they
Terry,
wrote up.
where was that photo taken?
That was in Lisle, Illinois.
Okay.
And,
At what event?
It was a jamboree. It had Christian rappers, right? So I had a picture with Alex. There was a Christian rapper and a scumbag Marxist. I'm not going to say who he is, a writer for Southern Poverty Law Center. He's connected with the Downers Grove leftists that hate you and me.
Sure.
They got him to come after me, and he wrote a 4 or 5 page hit piece on the Southern Poverty Law Center. So I don't know if this was
But
put
who
in.
reads
This
that?
was put in the story.
I'm wondering who even reads
I don't know if it was to. I don't know if it was to discredit me or discredit Alex Stein. So they're trying to say I'm radical because I was with this guy, and then I had a picture with
You are radical.
Trump's. I'm proud radical.
Yeah.
If I'm against BJ's in my kids' schools, if I'm against porn, drag queens,
we're going to talk about some more
I'm
of that
radical.
crap today.
So anyway, that was supposed to discredit me. So. We're going to talk about some local news, some pretty interesting, cool things. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mike Lindell thing.
Yeah, we got some announcements to make. We got Southside GOP event, some convention estate stuff. In fact, why don't we roll into that stuff right now? Jason, you want to pull up? We've got. Should we start with GOP event? All right. So. Everybody on the south side of Chicago, the suburbs, we got a historic event, right, Terry?
Yeah.
There is a grand commissioning on March 23rd for the Southside Republicans. The first ever African-American-led Republican office on the south side of Chicago.
So just to jump in here, sorry. So I grew up in the southwest side of Chicago before I came here, Italian Democratic Union family member. This is where I grew up. So my buddy Devin Jones, and it's kind of weird to say, "Oh, my African American buddy," right? My African American buddy. He's an American, right? He's a military guy as well, right? He just happens to be African American, and he's opening up the first ever. I introduced him to some GOP. Richard Porter, who was the establishment guy who's he had the awakening, I think. I'm not sure. I'm still,
Well, he spoke at our
not
Michael
sure.
Bell event.
And then we have Larry Smith, who was in charge of the grassroots committee, of which Larry and Don Tracy put me. I'm one of a few people on that grassroots committee. Bolts, current. I'm a grassroots committee member. And so anyway, these guys invested in getting this thing off the ground. It is so historic. It's the first ever. Again, it's African American led by Devin, but it's not. It's an American led, right? It's American led. It's Republicans. This is in the heart of City of Chicago workers. It's a big deal. So people from the southwest suburbs, meaning Chicago, hometown, Oak Lawn, this is going to help host events to get Democrats who are tired of the Marxists to help us try to fight to save our country, our state, and our children's future.
Well, I mean, it is important though, and it is important to reference the African Americans' frustration in Chicago. I mean, we saw Devin in a video that our buddy Ben did, right, talking about what's going on with the illegal immigrant crisis down in the city, and of course, we all know how our taxpayer dollars are going to fund their Visa cards, their cell phones, putting them up in hotels. They're taking kids out of schools and making them go back to the remote schooling so that they could house some of these illegal immigrants. And who's paying for that? Taxpayers. And meanwhile, Terry interviewed some homeless African American guys who are out on the street in 17-degree weather, having to fight and scrape and suffer the cold and get frostbite. And so there are African Americans in Chicago who are tired of getting screwed.
They weren't allowed to get on the warming buses. The
Right.
police pushed them off the 10 warming buses to let those Venezuelan criminals.
Hey, by the way, real important, we want to add one thing. So on YouTube and Twitter, please send us your feedback. Comment. You hate us? You like us? Let us know. We want to hear it.
We're
all of
watching
it.
now in the
We're
chat.
monitoring the chat. So
Come on, Greg Bolts. You
know
got to
what?
throw something. Come on, Curran.
If you want
Bernie
us to-
Fife, throw something our way.
If you want us to talk about something, let us know.
I'm sorry. I'm wearing this shirt for you. This is for Lurch. This is for Barney Fife. Lurch. Right here. It's working. You're sending police to my house. You guys are hiding. It's like all we want to do is have the opportunity to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, let's have a debate. Okay, so yeah, that's a big event, March 23rd, Southside Chicago. Go to southsidegop.com.
Are you going to be there or no?
We got one more.
Are you going to be there?
We're going to be there.
yeah.
Yes. Behind Enemy Lines is covering it. We're going to live stream the event, and
Big Daddy's going to be in Florida.
Yeah. He's got to send somebody off to college, huh? Okay, and then let's go to the next thing. Yeah, we got the Convention of States. So these guys are. We had them on the show, right? And the Convention of States, they're trying to get. I think it's 20. Well, they're at 26 states now. I think they need like 32 to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot. I think. You know what? Go to their website. That's the best way to find out more about that. But anyhow, they are hosting an event Sunday, April 7th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. at the Woodridge Public Library. So go out and see them. They're going to be talking about how to bring Washington to heel, which is something that we're going to need because it's out of control. And then we got NIFA. Yeah. So anyhow, go out, see them Sunday, April 7th. Learn about our Constitution. Learn about some of the other ways that we can affect freedom in the United States. Learn about some of the ways we can circumvent these lifetime politicians.
Circumcise them.
And and all their corrupt ways.
Now, Paul, do you
Circumcise their corrupt ways.
do you need to register beforehand, or can you just show up? Or
You should be able to show up.
I think you should be able to show
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
I'm sure they
Go
won't
to their-
turn away. I
do
don't
we
think
have
it's,
their,
I don't think
well,
it's going to be sold
do you
out.
need a room big enough, the Woodridge Library to host it?
Yeah, do we have
Only
their
if-
website, Jason? Do we have their
Only if
website
Greg
available?
Bolts shows up.
It doesn't show.
Yeah.
It only goes to
You and
Sorry,
Greg are going to be very good friends.
No,
Oh, I know.
Well, in either way, show up en masse on Sunday, April 7th to learn about how we can take back our country from the Convention of States people.
No, how they can take. We're not taking it back from them. They're trying
Sorry.
to take
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for the correction, producer. We're not taking it back from the Convention of States people. We're learning about how to take it back from the corrupt politicians. All right. Moving on. Let's. We got a commercial from IFA.
Thank you, IFA. So we're back, folks. So real quick before we get into some of the newsworthy stories, my partner, Paul, and he's not my LGBTQ partner, he's my podcast host partner, all right? So make sure that's clear. I feel like uncomfortable nowadays when I say my
Use
partner.
the word partner.
I will say
My
he gets
partner.
pretty handsy with me.
My partner, Paul,
Very
those from the
uncomfortable.
neighborhood, he's running for DGTRO chairman, right? So he's running for chairman. And we're getting pushback from the rhinos, people that are incompetent. They keep losing over and over and over and over again. They want to maintain control. They got their own buddy network. So we're fighting really hard. Paul's been a committee.
All we want is Republicans who will speak out.
yeah.
For God's sakes, just oppose the Democrats openly.
So Paul,
that's all we ask.
Paul's running as a committeeman. He's, as you know, he's active committeeman. We got Jeff Mack, active committeeman. We got Chicky Briner, active committeeman. He's a 41-year-old combat vet, right? He's parents involved in education, fighting for our kids. So Greg Boltz and Novak and the rest of the clowns, you know, you're not supposed to have Republicans run against other incumbent Republicans. That's what these jamokes told us for years, right? So because we don't agree with them not defending us and fighting for us and losing over and over and over again, right? They're running an 85-year-old man, the same age as my mom and dad. The guy's ready to, like,
I don't know how old he is. He's old.
Well, okay, he might be 81. I'm sorry, but he's like, what has he got? 3 years yet left? I mean, so you need somebody that's younger that's going to represent the community, the children. He's from Westmont. We don't have coverage in Westmont. We need coverage in Burr Ridge. We need to attract people. We got to motivate and excite because what they're not doing. It's the definition of insanity, right? So these people are running people against him. We got some young kid, might be a nice young kid, running against Chicky. She's very active, very, very passionate. We've got Jeff Mack, who's like a superstar, and they got some other jamoke running against him. So they want to take him out so he can't run against Jack Novak, who stopped us from having our open opportunity to speak on new business since July. He stopped leadership meetings. He canceled our meeting right before the primaries, right? That's what we're running against. Last night, we had a meeting for people on our side. Guess what Novak and Boltz did? They sent 2 spies in to try to intimidate the people that are supporting him, that are supporting us, that want to have change. So he had Lorraine the Grim Reaper Grimsley, or what's her name? Is that right? Lorraine the Grim Reaper Grimsley, and some woman, Barb, sitting there taking names as people walk in to have a meeting and a discussion.
Barb's the muscle. She's the one that assaulted
Yeah, she
Jeff.
assaulted Jeff Mack. Poor guy's like 70-some years old. She's smacking him around because, you know, he took a document that they doxed my family, him and his wife.
Party.
Actually, he didn't even take it. So I just want to get that off my chest. These people are not good people. And you know what? Even if they weren't good people, right? If they were winners, right? If you have a sports team and your coach sucks.
But wait, Terry, meanwhile, how many precincts are not represented by a committeeman?
Oh, there's most
So
of Westmont.
that's okay. So in
Most
other
of
words, why
Westmont.
are they running You know, people
put 'em in
why not? Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
When I think, why don't you just go into the open?
They said that we need people
Yeah,
to
they're using
help
their
these
energy.
people.
They're using their energy to try to take me out.
Yeah.
But they won't speak up against anything the Democrats are doing, and we're going
Right.
to cover some.
They're
but you know what?
they're scumbags,
Let's
all right?
let's move on. We got to be even more important
Scumbags.
announcement that we have to, and I'm gonna let you do that. We got a big
Jesus! Sorry, I got ADD.
Big
and I'm old.
announcement.
See these lumps on my head? I got hit in the head a lot in the 80s and 90s. It's not a joke, but so
We
the
had
Michael,
a very successful
Yeah.
Mike Lindell event.
It was awesome.
Remember, it was sold out, standing room only. Probably had almost 200 people there. It
Over
was,
200.
It was beyond our expectations. We had a bunch of great Patriots groups. Mike Lindell crushed it. Everybody said they loved the event. Everything went perfectly. It was a great Patriot event. So I guess
So that was huge. We had it in the southwest side of Chicago, right in the Mount Greenwood area. You know, Chicago cops, fire department.
115 Bourbon
It was
Street.
awesome at Bourbon Street. Thank you very much. Right. So it was very successful. So successful. I spoke to Boone Cutler. After I'm done talking, say who he is.
Sure.
And he's coming with Michael Flynn. Boone Cutler's a fucking sorry.
General
I swore.
Michael Flynn.
I'm sorry.
The
I'm sorry.
People's General.
Don
but-
Krause, I slipped.
You have a dump button, don't you?
Yeah, I slipped. I slipped on. I'm so excited. So I talked to Boone. He's got books out. They got a movie coming out with General Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
They're coming to Chicago to we're going to do a special screening of the movie and a salute to the military and law enforcement. All the same teams going to be involved.
Wait,
So I'm
it's gonna
very
be
excited.
Bigger than
'cause-
Lindell. Bigger than Lindell. We're going to have a bunch of veterans there, first responders. We're going to do it up.
Tell them who Boone Cutler
patriotic
is.
pageantry. So Boone Cutler is a co-author of a book called Fifth Generation Warfare that he and General Michael Flynn wrote. And it describes pretty astutely the situation that we're in. What it talks about is the generations of warfare going back to, when they're fighting with swords and shields in the Dark Ages, and moves on to the Gunpowder Revolution, and then on to the World War II, the air and submarines, and these are all generations of war. And something that Terry and I talk about all the time is that we are at war right now. It's a different kind of war, and something that we cover here on this show all the time is how Illinois has become a communist state. It's not in danger of becoming communist state. It is a communist state. You have one party running everything, supermajority of Democrats. They established that power through corruption, cheating in elections, with dirty voter rolls. The Mike Madigan patronage army, where he had power over both parties, and they kowtow to him. And evidence of that is with their Senate Minority Leader John Curran and other Republicans, and that's why we're in this situation right now. But that is how we become a communist state, and the evidence for that is in the legislation that's been created that has actually violated our constitutional rights. We'll go over some of that in a minute. But what they talk about is fifth generation warfare. We're in the fifth generation of warfare, the information war.
Good.
So it's a great book. Check it out. And we will be hosting both of them on May 2nd, right?
Yeah, it's penciled in.
Penciled in. We'll have more information to come. All right, so let's move on. Let's do some rapid fire news. Jason, what do you say? We're still good and on time. So first story, Terry, this will be interesting to you. Another FBI operative identified on U.S. Capitol grounds on January 6th. At least 21 confirmed incidents of feds, FBI agents, state operatives who infiltrated Trump crowds that day. And so you look at that picture, and you got a couple of FBI guys over there within the crowd. Obviously, we all know the Ray Epps story, and we know. We know what's the guy out of Louisiana, Clay. I forgot what his name was, but I think he had said that there was over 200 FBI informants in the crowd that day. So, I mean, the narrative of January 6th is pretty much it's done. The January 6th committee was a complete sham. The whole thing is a lie.
So,
all the way through.
As a proud January 6th participant, I didn't go in. I didn't do anything wrong. I was on the terrorist watch list. I'm off now. thank God.
Congratulations.
And so anyway, this was a setup. There was people that did some things wrong, right? I think, what did Omar say? What did she say? Well, there was some people that did things wrong. There was a couple in there.
Yeah.
But
by the way,
was
that was
set up-
the Gateway Pundit, our friends of the Gateway Pundit.
So I have news story here, brand new story I didn't even tell you guys about. There's a gentleman that works with
an affidavit.
Democrat, Schneider. I guess Tucker Carlson hates this guy, right? So there's a guy named Sterling Devin Carter. He works for this Democrat. In November, before January 6th, he was caught dressed up as an FBI agent. I didn't even get a chance to tell you guys this. Right? He had a gun on him. His car was dressed up like a... This has been going on for a while. So, Joe Severino, I might have you on. Even though you were a Republican, an independent, Democrat, you could like confusing the hell
Can't
out of me.
figure it out, yeah.
Yeah, but
Sounds like...
you're Italian. The only reason I'm talking to you guys because you're Italian. Otherwise. So anyway...
Sounds like they should throw him into the LGBT crowd.
Joe shared this with me, and he's been following... We might have him on the show to talk about it. But this guy, in November, was dressed up. He got arrested. And then they gave him... He had a weapon. He had a gun on him. And he had dressed up like a FBI agent car.
The whole thing was a sham.
And there's way more to it, but this guy was there as he works for a Democrat. He's a staffer for Schneider, and he got a suspended 9-month sentence.
The whole thing was a sham. What was the Reichstag fire in Germany?
Germany. Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know history, the Reichstag fire was a false flag. If anybody doesn't know what a false flag is an event created by the government to instill a reaction from its citizens against a certain group of citizens. It's what the Nazis did, and every bit of evidence that has come out since January 6th has pointed toward a similar type of orchestrated event by certain entities within our government, including politicians. I'm saying there's evidence of that. I'm not saying it's proven.
I was proud to be there. Oh boy, was I proud to be there.
I'm proud. I wanted to go.
Oh boy, was I proud to be there.
And you know what? Let me just say, I wanted to go there because I wanted to support President Trump. And I did think that the election was... I thought there was something wrong with the election.
Oh boy, was I proud to be there.
I don't have any proof, but I think there's all kinds of
irregularities.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next story so we don't go too long here. This one will be quick. Another example of the center square, the assisted suicide. So this is Illinois for you. This is Illinois following in line, goose stepping in line with Canada. Canada is famous for this right now, trying to basically kill anybody that has a cold. Like if they have I saw...
listen, I'm kind of in line with... If I get a third cancer, I'm going to want fucking... Oops, sorry. I want assisted suicide. If I get one more cancer, I am not going to I'm going to need some help, man. I'm not fighting it.
Terry, I got assisted suicide for you right here.
Yeah.
That's how you do assisted suicide.
I'm going to go to jail for that. It's a BB gun. It's a BB gun.
It's a BB gun.
It's fake.
It's a BB gun. Don't cancel us. All right, let's go to the next story. So this is the Joliet schools. Just real quick, I just want to cover this real quick. So while the teachers union in Chicago is trying to get $50 billion more money, and I'm not saying this is Joliet, so different district, but we're given all this power.
Did you say 50 billion or million?
They want $50 billion more dollars.
Holy shoot!
Added to the budget.
House all their staff.
Yeah, while and by the way, teachers are making more money. We'll show that in a second. This is the kind of stats you get. So if you scroll down, Jason, and you get to that little chart there. So you got, local alternatives to Joliet St. Jude's Catholic School include many failing schools. You have reading comprehension scores, 37%, 10%, 15%, 35%, 20%, 14%, 14%. Percentage of students reading at grade level. Unbelievable.
Jesus, I still don't read at grade level.
And then you got, if you scroll down to that other chart, you got reading and math proficiencies. And you see that some of the math proficiencies are in single digits. I mean, this is the state of education. because they're introducing this Marxist pablum about gender ideology and critical race theory, they're focusing more on that, and they're dumbing down our kids because they're lowering the standards. And Jim, you could maybe, you know what, Jim was a former teacher, so I'd like to get a little bit of your perspective on the state of education in Illinois, Jim, if you have a quick...
part of the problem is that teachers... they get their bachelor degree in education, not the subject that they're going to teach, and that's a big problem. I was fortunate when I was in college. Teach? Yeah, I taught social studies, but when I was in college, I earned my bachelor's degree in political science and then history, emphasis with U.S. history. And it was only after college that I decided to become a teacher. So I had to get a master's degree in education to earn my certificate to teach.
Were you a Democrat after school? I mean, I was a Democrat before.
I don't think Jim was a Democrat.
No,
you were always Republican?
I didn't have that misfortune, Terry.
Well, sorry.
I don't know how did you, what happened? What happened to you? Come on.
Hey, the union guys are coming around, though, let me tell you. Yeah, I mean, we could go into this conversation about the state of education at the college level all day, but maybe we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, that you be able to host a whole episode on that, guys.
100%. Yeah. All right, we can move on, Jason. The next one. Terry, you're gonna love this one.
Wait, who was the first to say this before all these smart people?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring this story up because Terry's been ringing this bell for a while. As you can see there, let's go back. Duckworth, Durbin vote to allow illegal aliens to be counted toward congressional representation.
Can I jump in?
Can you explain that for us, please?
So, I'm not like a rocket scientist. Most of you people know that, right? So, and I'm like, as I see this, and I understand with the census, right? That they at the census they count all these illegals, so everyone's all worried. Oh, they're going to get licensed. They're gonna vote. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They don't need to vote. They don't need to. Remember I said that? They don't need to vote. So all like California, Illinois, New York, where are they going? To Florida, to Texas, to Arizona, right? So they have a huge void. I forgot the exact amount of seats between New York, Illinois, and Cal. That'd be a good stat to know. But they lost congressional seats, right? So these Democrats, one reason they're pumping them in, they're going into all these blue cities and these blue states. They don't have to vote to win.
Well, we've been losing congressional seats, so they want to reverse that trend.
Seats. We're never going to win again if we're allowed to count. We need to find a good Republican that's strong, that's going to take Duckworth out at her kneecaps. She's like a good tackle in football.
Whoa, easy. I think her kneecaps are compromised.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Jesus. Well, then we don't even need a strong Republican.
She is a veteran, though. She is a veteran, so I hats off to her on that. She's a fellow veteran. But
she's a Marxist.
But I don't know where she is. I don't know where her head's
forget
at.
that, all right?
I don't understand.
She's not a veteran like these guys here. She don't deserve the respect. She's ruining America, so she don't deserve it.
If you ask me, she's kind of a disgrace because she's a veteran, and if you look at her voting record, it's just antithetical to what we stand to protect and serve as veterans, as soldiers and military. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, all right. So let's go to the next story. What do we got here? Okay, so this bill here. Amends the core study. Okay, this let's see, which one is this? School year, high school show. Okay, this is instruction. So they're legislating into law the teaching of climate change. So they're gonna, and so here's the issue with this, right? We could have a conversation about climate change. Nobody's saying that it's not real. I mean, it's such a vast and broad topic that nobody could possibly even describe it in, one short conversation. But the issue that I think everybody against the climate change agenda has is that they're using that as an excuse to take away our civil rights. Right? They're saying, though, we have to. Well,
Paul, looking at this, I see one problem with it already. I was going to ask you about it because it's the first time I've heard
go
this.
ahead, Jim. Jump in.
Is that they said required in a science class, or required in a social studies class. Yeah. That's the problem, right there. Yeah. Social studies class.
Yeah, right.
It's because I think they know that, unfortunately,
science.
Not all social studies. I want to make that clear. I worked, in a school where not all of the teachers were, on the far left in the social studies department. But with many social studies in schools, that department, is filled with people who would love to address that and talk about that instead of, world history, European history, United States history, American government, and a whole unit. A teacher could say, well, I need 4 weeks for this unit. I need 5 weeks. Are they, is the department chairman really overlooking how much time they spend on that unit? So I don't think it's going to get, in a science class, it may, depending on the teacher. But the social studies class, that's a problem.
I think it's a problem that it's being legislated or it's being attempted to be legislated. Because here's the thing. You're now taking education and the law should be separate, mutually exclusive to each other. When they are not mutually exclusive, that means that the state is now dictating what children are taught.
Right.
Where did you see that before? Right? When the state has a monopoly of control on all domains of interest in the human experience, that's called communism or totalitarianism or authoritarianism or fascist dictatorship. Take your pick. It's called we have no more freedom, right? It's called the state dictates the truth. Okay? You don't need legislation created to say what teachers or institutions of learning are supposed to teach, because what it does is it licenses this. What this does, I don't think it should science either, because here's the thing: now the state has the license to propagandize.
And that's true.
And people might argue with me and say, "Oh, they wouldn't do that." It doesn't matter. The legislation itself is the authority.
Okay.
For the state to do so.
So the rocket scientist is going to help you debunk this global warming. I'm not saying I'm not saying.
I didn't know Terry was going to go there.
So listen, I'm not saying that the human, we're not screwing up the climate, right? I'm not saying that. Here's what I'm saying. So Jim and I don't know, in 1979, I graduated high school. I don't know.
Okay, 83.
Yeah, oh my God.
79 was junior high.
God, you are
Graduated
such
junior
an
high.
old bastard.
Yeah, I know. I'm like getting my Depends all punched up here. So 1979, I graduated high school, right? And I remember in high school, my biology, earth science teacher, Mr. Brodemus, who's a radical scumbag. I don't even talk to him on Facebook, right? He's as I got older, I was a Democrat.
I'm sure he's no longer going to talk to you.
Yeah,
no.
You can forget it now, pal.
I think that's it.
He's done with you.
I remember them teaching us, right, about the Ice Age coming. I swear to God, right? So
I heard
all
about
the scientists,
Yeah.
Right.
by the 90s.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and I got a bad memory. I remember being scared. It's like, oh my God.
I've seen people talk about
they
this.
They said the Ice Age is coming by the 90s, right? So as that progressed, so these were the smart scientists, right? We were told these smart scientists, right? They taught us Ice Age is coming.
Right.
So as that progressed, right, and the 90s come, there's no Ice Age. All of a sudden, they're like, oh man, this Ice Age was supposed to be here. They missed the boat on that.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They're really smart scientists, right? They went to global warming. They went from the Ice Age to global warming. And they're like, oh, wow, we're going to melt the ice cap. So you're probably young enough to sort of...
The other guy was the population bomb guy. That never happened.
So they said global warming. So we went from Ice Age to global warming. This is just common sense, not being a rocket scientist like me, like most people can't have that.
Right.
I had 12 years in junior college, Maureen Valley, plus 4 years at Elmhurst.
A lot of guys go to college for 12 years. They're called doctors.
And so you got the Ice Age, then you got global warming, right? So then global warming didn't come after Y2K, right? That was supposed to come. So these smart scientists finally got really smart. They're like, oh my God, we've been wrong for the last 25 years. What do? Hey, let's call it climate change. That way we cover our bases. Yeah. That's what they did.
Now they're combining that with that the ESG score bull crap.
Here's what I'm saying is that I'm not denying that. We got all this stuff, all the popular, we're creating some problems, and it's also cyclical and stuff. All I do remember, in 1979, when I was in high school, it would snow in December. I wouldn't see the grass until March. And it has it like, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
like,
the snow days.
You'd see, and we have snow now. It's gone in 3 weeks. So that's my little sign. Do you remember or no?
Yeah, well, not even 3
see the
weeks
grass.
ago. Yeah.
But I mean, there's times where it come,
sure.
but it would snow. First snow December, you don't see the grass until like late April, right? And so I'm not saying they're liars. I know the scientists are liars because they said from ice age to global warming to climate change.
This
so
is
that
about
right
control. This is about control, and this is a local example of what they're trying to do on the macro level. They're trying to make even more egregious bills from a federal perspective to take away our rights. I mean, California is doing crazy stuff as it relates to this and trying to get rid of gas vehicles by 2035 and all this kind of stuff. All right, let's move on to the next one. I think I agree with Terry, even though I don't know if he's a scientist.
You didn't go to school as long as me. So
okay, this is a big one here. Let's scroll down real quick. So to the meat of that. Okay, so this is a vote by mail bill, and what this does is it provides that an election authority, this is Illinois, provides that an election authority may elect to mail a vote by mail ballot to all qualified voters instead of sending notices and applications for permanent vote by mail status. Yeah. So quickly, all that does is floods the system with even more mail-in ballots.
That's great bolts.
So that's yeah. And we have Republicans that are all about this vote by mail stuff. Well, let me tell you, vote by mail is the ticket to fraud. Because now they can just, whoever's on the voter roll, an election authority can just send out ballots willy-nilly. So now you're just flooding the system with vote by mail ballots, entering more chaos.
Will they
into
be
the
required to make sure that voter lives at that residence that it was mailed to originally?
Because we already know that the voter roll is dirty.
Right, exactly.
It's not clean. So
there's no requirement.
There's no requirement.
Right.
We talked to United Sovereign Americans, which is a nonprofit. It's a national nonprofit, and our buddy Nate Kane from West Virginia worked with the leader of that group, and they bought the Illinois voter roll, and they had showed that there were 4 million out of the 8 million registered voters in Illinois had some sort of registration violation, right? And now that doesn't mean it was a legal vote necessarily. It's complicated.
It is.
What it does mean is that
there's the potential.
Let me add on to that. There were over 600,000 of the 600,000 votes. Of those 600,000 votes, those voters had some sort of registration violation on their record. Now, maybe a lot of those were. The point being is it violated voter laws that are on the books, and so what that means is that election should not have been certified legally. You could argue if if the votes were legal or not. You'd have to get down to that level and count find out if this is a real voter, yada, yada, yada. The point being is they had registration violations. They were counted in the vote. The error rate was like 1,000% beyond what it should have been. The election should not have been certified.
All right, 45 minutes in. Go. All
right.
Move. Keep
All
moving.
right, next one is, okay, real quick, this one goes with the climate change thing. This is now they have to include, this is saying the schools have to include books that are part of, let's see, summer reading lists include books that are written by diverse authors, including but not limited to authors who are African American, women, Native Americans, Latinx, and Asian, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
So this is an example of CRT.
Whatever. Again, no, but it's an example that now, again, the state is licensing themselves the ability to propagandize. Because this will allow them to pick and choose what literature kids are supposed to read. This should not be something the state does. This is propaganda.
Next one.
Next and last one. And this is one that one of our friends came. So this is the ability for kids 12 and above to consent to vaccinations. I think the main thrust here is vaccinations for STDs.
You know what's so weird is I got my twins in high school, and with this new laws that came out, Jim.
Yeah.
So I got boy-girl twins. So my son's going to become a girl, and my daughter's going to become a boy. I'm so confused. I don't know how to handle it.
When did they announce this?
It's a joke. Not my kids.
So,
right.
so they want to
I want
pump
to
your
see your
kids.
reaction on that one.
Oh my God.
So why are they giving kids 12 and above the ability to consent to medical procedures? It's just insanity.
So your kids are too little to know. So when your kids are in school, and you know this, when your kids are in school, if you want to get them an aspirin or a prescription from the doctor, it's a big deal. You got to bring
not
a note and all
anymore.
this. But if they want to become a boy or girl and switch their sexes, they don't have to tell us. This is insane.
Or if they, or,
Consenting to sex at 12
oh,
years
but
old.
but this is literally saying like that they can be manipulated and influenced by a counselor or somebody at the school to say, hey, you should get your your HPV vaccine when they're freaking 12 without you knowing about it. They can consent. This is a bill that Illinois is putting forth to cut you out of your kids' medical decisions.
I wish I got that vaccine.
That's what
I've had a sore throat for the last 6 months.
you probably need a few more than that.
So I'm going to step aside
Yeah, all
and
right,
let this. So they're going to talk about the library, and I don't want to get involved in that because the guy that they're trying to kick off the library board, I hate that guy. I hate that guy.
I see.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get involved in that.
Right.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Well, he's got a bit more decorum than you, I would say.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening in. Talk about this. We got to fight the Marxists at the libraries. These people are evil scum, and they need to be taken out from their office roles. Right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, thanks,
office.
Terry. Yeah. Go
Enjoy.
try to save your kids from changing their gender, will you?
This is for the library.
I think this is real. So
Terry should not be handling it.
no,
That's
not
live.
at all. There's a lot of things that that worry
All
me
right,
about.
Terry.
So why don't you scooch in a little bit here, Jim? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so
I can use this microphone, right?
You get it close.
Yeah.
so Jim, you have an interesting experience with the Downers Grove.
Yeah. Library board.
Let me just set this up. So all of that, all those stories, all those bills that we just talked about are examples of how Illinois has become a communist state, not in danger of becoming a communist state, has become a communist state, and we're going to have to save it from that. Now, the real concerning thing about all this is that we're starting to see that communist totalitarianism creep down into the institutions at the local level. We've seen it with the schools, but the schools are a bit more controlled, let's say, at the state level. Now we're seeing it at the library at a more egregious level, and it's starting to become, in the last few years, more apparent and loud. And we had Noel Manley on last week to kind of talk about the holistic view of what's happened in the last few years and where it started.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk to you because your experience seems to be something that kind of kicked this whole thing off. And it's a story.
Yeah, quite by accident, really.
In and of itself, it's kind of a wild story. So, you know what? Why don't you tell us how it started?
Yeah. So, I believe in June of 2022 was the first time that the Downers Grove Library windows were painted. For Pride Month. I believe it was 22. It could have been 21, and then again in 2023. And it really did not unite the community. People were opposed to it.
Right.
And so really, my wife said, well, why don't we try to do something that will unite the community, honor the veterans. So, she came up with the idea that we should, request to paint the windows either in July, to celebrate the 4th of July, or Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And so we requested permission to paint the library's windows, in the month of May. to honor the veterans. And so we made that request, and we were told by Julie, the library director, that we would have to submit a request by email, and then we would have to explain what we wanted to paint, on the windows, words, images, things of that nature.
Did that catch you off guard at all?
No, I thought it was a reasonable request.
Sure.
To, have to submit that, to make sure that what we were going to put on the windows was, appropriate.
Yeah.
And, just, a formal procedure.
Seemed like
A reasonable.
reasonable request because,
Yes.
hey, we want to do something to the library. You guys run the library.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So we went back and forth on the emails, and eventually they gave permission, but they said will be a beta test. So I wasn't quite sure if they did. And
Beta test.
Right. So in other words, she said, well, what caught my attention, she said that we've never had an individual request this before. And that's when I said, okay, let me cut through this red tape. I want to talk to the assistant director, Jen.
But that would beg the question on what the genesis of the LGBTQ, marketing, where that came from.
Well, see,
If somebody didn't request it like you had requested.
I just assumed that everyone would have to follow this procedure, this formalized procedure.
Right.
So there were 17 school-age children and then 6 adults that supervised them. And so they granted us permission. But before that, I called Jen. And I said, listen, I'm not doing this as an individual.
Right.
Just like you do for Halloween, it will be school children who are going to paint the library's windows. And she said, it was a very pleasant conversation that we had, phone conversation. And she said, okay, I was not aware of that. I thought it was just you. I said, no, it's not. And she said, you know what? That's fine. This will not be a beta test. That you can go ahead, you can paint the windows. It's been approved. We painted a quote from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. We took an excerpt from that quote. And then on the other windows, they painted other images and things like that. So we painted the windows. About 3 days after we painted the windows, I received an email from the library. So I expected it to be, congratulating the students. Thank
the
you.
Gettysburg Address. It's one of the greatest speeches in the history of the country. It's one of my personal favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I've quoted it on multiple speeches with the American Legion. I think it's probably the most profound speech from a president in American history. But
and for a few brief words,
Right.
I don't know, I forget exact number of words, 261 or 262, something like that.
Right.
And it really gets to the point of what a democracy is about.
Yeah, sure does.
In a very poignant way. So I opened up the email, and she said, the email said from Jen, the assistant director of the library, that what you submitted and what you painted is not exactly the same. There's a minor difference or some words to that effect. And she said that...
You violated policy, huh?
Yeah. And she said that the word God, all 3 letters, were capitalized. I thought, okay, this is getting a little petty. And she said, so we changed it. So we corrected it.
Wait. Let me back up for a second. So in the email, she'd said that what you had done wrong was capitalized God.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The letters. Right. GOND.
And then went on to say
they corrected it. Yeah, they corrected that. And I then asked, I said, well, we told you that other things we would do with the windows, what we would paint on them. And the kids, in their enthusiasm, wanted to paint additional, things on the windows. Now, the one window that we told them that they could not, because it's a solemn occasion, was with the Gettysburg Address. That excerpt, they wanted to paint some fireworks or something like that, and we said no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Okay, but on the other windows, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I asked Jen. I said, now you did not do that. You said that what we submitted was not exactly what was painted on the windows, but yet you did not change that.
So they
no
painted,
answer, no reply.
So they didn't even. It seems like they didn't even notice that you went above and beyond what you had submitted.
As far as the word God, until someone brought that to their attention, and that was another.
You said you were going to paint the Gettysburg Address.
Correct.
But you didn't say you were going to paint the fireworks.
Yeah, or some other
They
things.
didn't even address that.
No.
But the thing that you said you were going to paint, you did.
We did.
And what is their contention that you didn't tell us you were going to capitalize all three letters in the word God?
That was exactly it. Yeah.
And they bothered to go through the time of going out and editing the paint job that these children did.
Correct.
To lowercase.
Correct.
O and D in the word God.
No, they kept that capitalized.
They kept G capitalized.
They did.
But the egregious offense
Right.
was that O and D were capitalized.
Yes.
And they changed it.
Yeah, and they said it was a someone, a patron, a resident.
A resident
well, I finally
complained?
got Jen to say
This is the
I asked
behavior
Jen,
of a library board. This is the juvenile behavior
Correct.
of a library board.
So that aroused my suspicions. I was like, okay, if they're being that
Unbelievable.
petty,
Unbelievable.
then I thought, okay, I want to know. I believe it was the group EQDG that painted
They like to
the
lie
windows in
about
June.
studies.
Yeah, and so I then made a request, not a FOIA request. I simply asked by email, Julie and Jen, okay, did they receive permission? And in the same way I had to, our group had to. There was no response. And I think that's when Null said, Jim, you have to FOIA it. And I said, I'm just asking a simple question. Why do I have to go through this formal procedure? So anyway, to make a long story short, I did.
They'll say,
Right. So I did. And to my surprise, I asked to see their emails asking for permission, they being EQDG, for 2022 and 2023. I only received the emails for 2022. What I found out, and that's why I learned why they were so reluctant to share that information until I FOIA'd, is put in that FOIA request, is because they actually sent me emails that clearly demonstrated that emails were being sent back and forth by the public relations person for Downers Grove, the town of Downers Grove, the library public relations person, the co-chair for EQDG, and David Humphreys was also mentioned in these emails.
David Humphreys is
a library
board member?
Library board member. As to how they could promote Pride Month. Could they do this through the 4th of July parade in Downers Grove?
So this was a collaborative effort
to promote it.
To promote it.
Yeah.
Between,
but they never asked me how they could promote
between
Memorial Day.
So again, this is a collaborative effort between bureaucratic officials at the Village Hall,
library,
the library,
yeah.
and
that group,
and a LGBTQ plus whatever promoting nonprofit.
Correct.
And so it would appear that the LGBTQ plus nonprofit has some sort of, let's say, input with the village bureaucrats and library members, because they're talking over email about how to promote LGBTQ event, right?
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. The part was obviously they did not.
Not saying there's
They
anything...
didn't have to go through the formalized procedure. Okay.
Yeah.
They did not do that, and they told us that we had to do that, and they said all groups have to do this. And so they didn't do that. But they did not send me
No, well,
the
they were
2023.
working together to do it.
Right, right. And so I reached out to Julie and Jen once again, and I said, I did FOIA you for the 2023. She sent me an email explaining that because the library staff and the EQDG organization were working so closely with one another on that exhibit that now is on the second floor, that they had a close working relationship, that the library staff, and she said library staff, she didn't say, Jen, who I guess is, Julie has handed that responsibility off to her, that they just had verbal permission. So I said, okay, I'd like to paint the windows in July of 2024, and I'd like to sit down and have a conversation with you, because if they got verbal permission to do it, I want the same consideration. And that's when they handed me off to the board president, Swampa, And she reached out to me and said, Miss Will, I meant to get back to you, to talk about the library policy, that we're considering a library policy. And I said, well, that's interesting because Jen told me that the library, after I made that request, she said, well, we're no longer going to be doing this unless you are recognized as a group and that you have a partnership with a recognized group.
And just for a second, you are a taxpayer of that library in Downers Grove, and you want to paint something for Memorial Day. Why do you need to be part of some group, right? I mean, that would be my first question. And
they said a community-wide event. And I said, well, the 4th of July, Downers Grove hosts the 4th of July parade. That's a community event. So, but then I asked Jen, I said, wait a minute, Jen, I sent this email to you after the June board meeting, but before the July board meeting. So this cannot be, it's not possible that this is a board policy. The board never had an opportunity to vote on this.
right.
And that's again when she
great
stopped
point.
responding to me, and Swampa once again got into the picture. So they handed me off to the board president, realizing that they made yet another mistake.
So their messaging is inconsistent.
Oh, yeah.
And in the meantime, you had found out that that this group EQDG was working in collaboration with the PR person of the village, the PR person of the library.
Board.
Right.
Yeah, or the library, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, let's not forget to point out that this is a library board that paid over $150,000 to a consulting group named RGW Consulting. And what RGW Consulting did was they assessed the Downers Grove Library for their diversity, and their report came back in a PowerPoint. It was a Marxist diatribe that suggested, among many things, that whiteness infected the library. It pitted Downers Grove, the south of Downers Grove, against the north of Downers Grove, as there being some socioeconomic divide in that. This is a misunderstanding of how taxes work and how taxpayers work. That the north side of Downers Grove, because they're more affluent per capita, have more privilege at the library supposedly than the south side of Downers Grove, which doesn't make any sense, and also suggested that language is subjective to the people in power. That definitions are not objective, but definitions of words are subjective to the whims and the authority of the people running the library. So this is the kind of nonsense that was written there. The study provided no data, no peer-reviewed studies, nothing of that nature whatsoever. And of course, on page 8, it forgot to complete its copy and paste and left in the former customer name in the PowerPoint. So that's one thing. Another thing, they tried to implement a drag queen story hour targeted at children that was wholly rebuked by the community. On top of that, I mean, there's financial issues, right?
Yeah.
They've been burning cash.
Yeah, the reserve fund, I believe in 2021 was $1.4 million. By 2025, it'll be down to $78,000. So
where did that money go?
Yeah, and that was during COVID, where the government was lavishing money on communities and businesses and things like that. So they can't use that as an excuse.
They're also obviously big supporters, most of the board, of books like Genderqueer, pornographic novels that are targeted at children. EQDG is an organization that advocates for this sort of thing, that advocates for pornographic material targeted at children. And their excuse that we were told while they sat with our Congressman Sean Casten and our Illinois State Representative Ann Stoffa Murray, that unless children have these materials, LGBTQ children have these materials, they're likely to commit suicide. Then the woman who runs that organization referenced the Trevor Project study that proved that with a percentage of LGBTQ youth that are susceptible to suicide attempts and suicide deaths. And come to find out that study was completely bunk. There was no methodology provided.
Yeah.
It was social media driven. There was no history of the mental state of these people. It was an anonymous study, so there's no science behind it whatsoever. And this woman claims to be a scientist, a psychologist. So this is just the background of what this library, what else this library is involved in, how they think, how they operate. A lot of Marxist tendencies. So where were we, Jim?
Yeah. So at that point, Swapna in an email said that the library was now working on a policy. So I said, well, you're admitting that a policy never existed.
Right.
And she didn't answer that one. And she did say, well, thank you for, partaking, for agreeing, giving your consent for the beta test. And I, again, explained to her, no, I never did. So obviously, she's trying to cover for Julie and Jen. As of right now, I have asked the library board to censure Julie and Jen. I said, you have the emails. So Swapna last month reached out to me and said, may I please, can you send me these emails? And I said, I will, but you already know this. I've been, coming to these board meetings since May, not every month. And I've been outlining, how Julie and Jen lied. And so I sent them once again, and as of yet, I've heard nothing, but I'm asking them to censure Julie and Jen for, just blatantly lying about the board policy, that everyone had to submit to that, and then telling me that there was a new one when obviously that was impossible, that the board never met. And then I asked, I think it was about a month ago, I said, okay, you told me back in August you were working on a policy, for painting the windows. And apparently they have written one, and I don't know when they'll release that to the public and when that will be voted on by the board.
And let's talk about that. So there's a controversy here. So there's a member of the library board, the lone conservative member of the library board named Bill Nienberg. And he was censured a couple of weeks ago at the
library board,
which we showed, we covered on this show, and which Jim you performed exquisitely, I might add, and stood your ground and stood up to your First Amendment rights, and
tried to remove,
kudos to you. They tried to remove you, and you stood your ground, and we admire you for that, we thank you for that, and so. Lone conservative member on the board, right?
Yeah.
And they've suggested that he's been a problem child, essentially, for, the crimes of
asking questions
about
the budget,
the budget particularly.
Right.
And you had mentioned how the it's a discretionary fund or
cash reserves
have been depleted by almost
$1.3 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And where's that money gone? And he's been stonewalled on those questions, but the egregious crime that he's committed was involved you, right? Do you want to just briefly?
Yeah. Before I get to that, though, I do want to say that that Bill made a motion to look. I can't remember exactly. The library is going to fall under some reconstruction. And he said, costs have gone down, and he gave an example. And he said, I think we really need to re-examine this budget. No one would even second the motion. All he was asking is, just let's go over the budget. He wasn't asking for the cancelization, to be, or for the contract to be canceled. And couldn't get a second. We were stunned. Why wouldn't you want to look over, this contract? So Bill sent me the proposal for the window painting policy. And they're saying he wasn't allowed to do that. So now for that reason and other reasons, one library board member, Carissa Doherty, also added that since he does not have a library card
Oh, we talked about that.
Yeah, that is some terrible
And,
crime, and he should be,
And that's
removed from library board.
Miss Doherty, Mrs. Not sure, but she actually violated Illinois law when she did that. 75 Illinois compiled statute, section 1 states, and let's see if I can find it here. Oh boy.
While you're looking for that, the
Yeah,
other
go
thing, Paul, is that in this time, no library board member has refuted, my accusation that Julie and Jen have lied. And I find that very interesting because they know they're in possession of the emails, where they told me. And, if they believe that, that they shouldn't be, censured, then why not come out and say, they did not lie to you. Not one of them has refuted that accusation.
Yeah. Well, and I can't seem to find it, but so let me ask you, the one thing that trying to nail Bill on is that you had continually asked for, the policy,
Correct.
the policy on this window painting or the requesting of it and so forth. And you were basically stonewalled, or you described what happened, that they didn't have a policy,
No.
that they backtracked, that they
Right.
they essentially they lied.
They did
lie about it. I mean,
Right.
you caught them. You've got proof of that in
Right.
emails, right?
Right.
And so there was a draft policy that was
Correct.
available, right?
Yes.
And Bill being the lone conservative on the board. And there you go. Thank you, Jason. We got the board members up there. You got Swapna Degani, Carissa Doherty, David Humphreys, Barnali Kuntia, Bill Nieberg, and Marty Sladek. And so Bill's the lone conservative on the board. And so the thing that I find fascinating is I listened to the board meeting while he wasn't there to defend himself, of course. And then I listened to the village council meeting where Leslie Stowski-Fugit had brought the vote to investigate him for removal.
Right.
And, heard these blind partisans sit up there and admonish Bill for the crimes of being a difficult. Yeah, that's what I heard in essence. And people can go, this is public.
Right. It's recorded.
This is recorded.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what they did. And
So you can fact check.
you could, you could. That's essentially besides the draft policy thing. And do you want to just cover that real quick and just explain what happened? Bill had sent you,
sent me an email of the proposed policy, and the library board said that you violated a policy. You shouldn't have done
because you
that.
had opened a link and it was secure and
Google Doc link or something, and
Yeah.
I guess that alerted Julie, and she had the
I suppose it
IT
is grounds
people.
for removal.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, we'd have to look at the bylaws. I think what they've said is that it's a violation of the bylaws, but it doesn't. The grounds for removal, I've not heard that that's the case, but I did hear that. And so anyway, long story short, he sent you. All he was trying to do was help out a citizen who wanted to understand. I mean, folks, let's go over this again. Jim Wool had asked the library to paint the windows for Memorial Day, and he had high school students help him do it.
Even younger,
In younger ones?
grammar grade, yeah.
And obviously, everyone knows Memorial Day is a very special day for this country, and a very special day for me as a veteran, because it honors the fallen men and women of our country who defended their country with their lives and paid the ultimate price. And, I would argue that it is far more important of a day than what the LGBTQ community gets, which is an entire month, which is absurd. I mean, there are men and women who laid down their lives. No one can know that sacrifice. None of us walking amongst each other can ever possibly comprehend or understand what that sacrifice is, because we are walking around breathing and benefiting from the sacrifices that people made, the ultimate sacrifices that people made, so that we could be here today and say what we want to say in front of a library board, or even be free to run for library board or run for village council, or be in a position to sit on a bully pulpit and tell people what they think about how their community should be run. Nobody Leslie Sadowski Fugit or Swapna Gagani or David Humphreys or any of these other people who deign to admonish Bill Nienberg for asking questions or push Jim Wool aside when he wants to honor his country. None of those people can possibly comprehend the sacrifices that were made to allow them to do what they do every day. And yet they're going to elevate the LGBTQ month ahead of Memorial Day, and they're going to lowercase the O and the D and the God because Jim didn't follow instructions. This is the town we live in. These are the ideologically possessed demagogues that are running the institutions in Downers Grove. This is happening. This Marxist revolution is happening in our own town, and children are getting that example.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the drag queen, that's just an example of vulgar entertainment. And
what educational value does that have for children?
Doesn't.
There is none.
No.
Absolutely none.
No.
I mean, these people there's a mind virus out there. It's just, there's no point in any of this besides to antagonize your fellow citizens.
Yeah, and Paul, I mean, and even before this whole drag queen incident, I reached out to Julie by email, and I have that too. And I said, why don't you, this was during the controversy or when it first became known that this would happen, that they invited the drag queen. I said, why don't you sponsor an event which would unite this community? Like, for example, do a Lincoln Douglas debate, on that house on Maple Street, that historic house.
Famous.
And that you could reach out to the Downers Grove South and North Theater Club and ask them to dress in period costumes. Mm-hmm. And then also invite the public to do the same. And apparently before these debates, in 1858 between Lincoln and Douglas, that they would arrive a few days before in the towns that they were held, and the night before they would host a parade.
Yeah,
down the street, down Main Street. Mm-hmm. And I said you could do the same thing. And
they hate American history though, Jim, because they're communists.
And I thought that this would be a great lesson. And that when I was a social studies teacher, I did ask a Lincoln impersonator, to come in. And I think it was C-SPAN who hosted a reenactment of the Lincoln Douglas debates.
That's cool.
And the guy that I asked to come in
debate,
to my
some of the most famous debates in the history of our country. Yeah. Where Abraham Lincoln made his name. Right?
Yeah, nationally.
Nationally. Yeah.
And so where we could do that, and C-SPAN did that. Did these reenactments. They went to the Illinois towns and did this. And I recognized that in one town, the hired actor was the man I had in my classroom, for my U.S. history students.
Cool.
Yeah, and they enjoyed it. And his wife would even participate. She came in a period dress to the classroom and answered questions from the students.
But they don't want to debate, right? One conservative board member, they can't take it. They want to remove him because he's difficult. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if these people can see outside of themselves and understand how bad the optics are on five people teaming up on one person. I mean, they're acting like, so the groupthink is so strong that they're going to have this groupthink mentality. Right. Say we just got to get rid of the. Yeah. We got to get rid of the dissenting voice.
Right.
But
It sends you the bylaws.
Oh, the bylaws?
Slack.
Oh,
Nothing
let's.
in there about confidentiality, unless it's in Robert's rules of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't think Robert's Rules of Order.
our producer in general. So our producer sent us the bylaws for the
Library?
library
Yeah.
board, and he says that he doesn't see anything about confidentiality for the draft document. So it sounds to me like the violation was that you click the link and Bill had sent it out.
There was other links on there, and I wasn't sure if those links would be
Thanks for that, Jason.
a description of the policy, because when you read their proposed policy, it's you can't comprehend it.
Yeah, right. It's all drivel. So one of the things that's going to get them in hot water over this is we're not going to stop. Is that Miss Doherty exposed the fact that Bill Nienberg did not have a library card. Well,
right.
There's this little thing which a library board member you might think would be aware of, called the Library Records Confidentiality Act. It's an Illinois law. 75 Illinois compiled statute 70/1 states that the registration and circulation records of a library are confidential information. No person shall publish or make any information contained in such records available to the public. And as most laws do, or all laws do, I'm not sure, they go on to define terms within the law so
Right.
that everything is clear. And in Section C, it says, for the purpose of this section, 1, quote, library means any public library or library of an educational, historical, or eleemosynary institution, organization, or society. 2, quote, registration records includes any information a library requires a person to provide in order for that person to become eligible to borrow books and other materials. That sounds like a library card. And 3, circulation records includes all information identifying the individual borrowing particular books or materials. So there's your smoking guns right there for Carissa Doherty violating the Illinois Library Records Confidentiality Act as a sitting board member of an Illinois public library, and doing so to another.
Right. And we'll see if
member
the
of the
village
board.
commissioners now, remove her and others.
Yeah, well, I think that would be grounds for removal, violating state law. I would imagine that would be, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to chase that one. I'll tell you that. And I'm not going to break any other news tonight. Let's just say she's not the only one that we have found proof of violation of that law. There is another person connected to the Downers Grove Public Library that has violated the Library Confidentiality Records Act in relation to Bill Nienberg's library card status. So I think there's a double standard here. What do they talk about with Trump and Biden? There's two-tier system of justice
Sure.
at play. And we'll see how this plays out, because we'll be sure as citizens of this great town to point out to the village council and the library board that this law has been violated, and Bill Nienberg's privacy has been violated. So, well, Jim, I appreciate you.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate you
inviting
for
me.
coming on.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you for exercising your most fundamental right of free speech. We always encourage that here on this show. Thank you, everybody. You know what? I got one thing I got to do. We got some people in the chat we got to mention, right, Jason? Let's see here. I saw it. I want to mention these. I want to mention these guys because they made some comments from earlier. Here we go. So we got the Real Shred. He's all over the place. Looks like they're all from him. Okay. The Real Shred says Russia fighting back. I think that was in reference to our earlier conversation. Global warming for global tax for global government. I would agree. I would agree that that's where they're trying to go. UN, NATO, all these, extra constitutional government structures that they've created, EU, all those. Death cults, that's yep. Real Shred says House of Rothschild, hopefully House of Windsor, and they all want a global tax. Well, I would agree with you, Real Shred, and we thank you for chatting. Remember, everybody, chat. Send us your comments, send us your questions, send us your criticism. Please like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate you for coming on. March 23rd, we will be streaming the Chicago Southside GOP event. And May 2nd, look for more information on our event with General Michael Flynn and Boone Cutler. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great weekend.